Good morning, students. Today we are going to start new lesson from section 1. The title of this lesson is How Wealth Accumulates and Men Decay. It is written by George Bernard Shaw. You can see this picture of an old man, and this man is George Bernard Shaw. Who was George Bernard Shaw? Before we start our lesson, we have to discuss about George Bernard Shaw. Let us see. George Bernard Shaw, as we know, George Bernard Shaw was born on 26th July 1856 in Dublin, Ireland. He died on 2nd November 1950. And his nationality is British, Irish personality. So you can see he was born in Dublin. Shaw moved to London in 1876 after his education and all those things, where he struggled to establish himself as a writer and a novelist. He embarked on a rigorous process of self-education. So he was either to get self-education, means what, you are earning money and you are spending your money on your own education. In this way, by mid 1880s, he had become a respectable theatre and music critic. Following a political awakening, he joined the gradualist Fabian Society and became its most prominent pamphleteer. Shaw had been writing plays for years before his first public success was Arms and the Man in 1894. For the first time, he has written Arms and the Man, the first public success. He was influenced by Henrik Ibsen. We know Henrik Ibsen is a dramatist. He was a playwright, and George Bernard Shaw has a great influence of Henrik Ibsen on himself. He sought to introduce a new realism into English language drama. So afterwards, by the early 20th century, his reputation as a dramatist was secured with series of critical and popular successes that included Major Barbara, Doctor's Dilemma, Caesar and Cleopatra. All these plays were written by George Bernard Shaw, and it got enormous success. So all these things made George Bernard Shaw popular. Shaw's expressed views were often continuous. He prompted eugenics and alphabet reform, and opposed vaccination and organized religion. He courted unpopularity by denouncing both sides in the First World War as equally, culpable, and although not a Republican, castigate British policy on Ireland and the post-war period. So you see, in 1938, he provided the screenplay for filmed version of Pygmalion, for which he received Academy Award. What was Pygmalion? Pygmalion is a drama written by George Bernard Shaw. Pygmalion is a story of flower vendor girl. She sells her flower in a square of city, and there is a professor who is making a research on a local dialect of that girl. Okay, so we have Marathi version of this Pygmalion drama. That is, its title is in Marathi, ती फुलं राणी. You might have seen that drama somewhere else. So after that, you see, since Shaw's death, scholarly and critical opinion about his works was varied, but he had regularly been related among the British dramatists as a second only to Shakespeare. So George Bernard Shaw, if we read his biography, if we read full biography, we will get that he was the second person after Shakespeare. Shakespeare was the greatest dramatist in English drama. After that, only George Bernard Shaw is treated the second person after Shakespeare. So George Bernard Shaw is treated the second greatest playwright, greatest dramatist after Shakespeare. And his life was very, it was not easy. And as we got that Shaw was born 3 Upper Story Street, Sin Street, in Ireland, Dublin, Ireland, and um, he was very young child and only son of George Kerr Shaw and Lucinda Elizabeth, her mother. His elder siblings were Lucinda and you see Lucinda, Francis, Eleanor, Agnes. These were his siblings. The Shaw family was English descendant and belonged to the dominant Protestant ascendancy in Ireland. George Kershaw, an ineffectual alcoholic, was among the family's less successful member. His relatives secured him a sinecure in a civil service from which he was pensioned off all in early 1850s. Okay. So, by the time of Shaw's birth, his mother had become close to George. John Lee, a flamboyant figure well known in Dublin's musical circle. Shaw retained the lifelong obsession that Lee might have been his biological father. There is no consensus among Shavian scholars on the likelihood of this. So, in 1862, Lee and Shaw agreed to share a house on One Hatch Street in an affluent part of Dublin and country college cottage on Dalkey Hill. Okay. So, when he moved to London in early 1876, Shaw learned from his mother that Agnes was dying to tuberculosis. So he resigned from the land agents and in March traveled to England to join his mother and Lucy at Agnes' funeral. He never again lived in Ireland. He did not visit it for 29 years. So it was very pathetic condition for him that when in early 1876 he moved to London. So that Agnes was dying of tuberculosis, and he just joined the funeral of Agnes, Lucy at the Agnes funeral. So there George was there and Lucy, her mother, was there. They conducted and attended the Agnes funeral. Initially, Shaw refused to seek clerical employment in London. His mother allowed him to live free in charge of her house in South Kensington, but he nevertheless needed an income. He had abandoned the teenage ambition to become a painter and had not yet thought of writing for a living. But Lee found a little work for him: ghost writing, a musical column printed under Lee's name is a satirical weekly, The Hornet. Lee's relations were Bessie deteriorated after their move to London. So eventually, we can say Shaw he faced a lot of ups and downs in his whole life. Okay, so in 1880s, Shaw began attending meetings of Zetical Society, whose objectives was to search for truth in all matter affecting in the interests of the human race. After that, you see, political awakening took place in him: Marxism, socialism, Fabian society, and after that, much after that, you see, in mid 1880s marked the turning point of Shaw's life, both personally and professionally. And he started writing. He began a career as a critic. The published novels, neither commercially successful, were his two final efforts in his genre: Cashel Byron's Profession Writer in 1882 and 1883, and Unsocial Solacist began and finished in 1883. In 1884 and 1885, though through the influence of Archer, Shaw was engaged to write book and music criticism for London papers. So Shaw's various reviving activities in 1880s and 1890s. It was as much as a music critic that he was best known. So he became playwright in the era of 1890s. After using the plot of aborted 1884 collaboration with the Archer to complete Widower's House. So the Philandier written in 1893, then Mr. Warren's Profession 1893, okay, Arms and Man 1894. You see, these writings made him he achieved somehow the fame, popularity there. And then Candida, a successful a success of Arms and Man was not immediately replicated Candida, and after that has written South Shields in 1897. He wrote about a Napoleon called the Man of Destiny. Then cried on West End, Richard's Mansfield, The Devil's Disciple. All these things, all these writings were made him popular. Okay, so this was George Bernard Shaw, and after that he got enormous success. And you see, he has written some short stories, and some notable dramas were written by him are as follows. For example, Man and Superman, one of the most popular drama, completed in 1902. It was a success both at Royal Court in 1905 and Robert Lawrence in New York production. The Doctor's Dilemma is again second most popular drama written by him. So, overall, we can say George Bernard Shaw is treated as one of the famous dramatists, second dramatist after Shakespeare. Shakespeare is at number 1, and George Bernard Shaw is at number 2. No other playwright is treated as a second, but only George Bernard Shaw is there. He is treated as a second dramatist after Shakespeare. So this is the power of his writing. So I think students, we will stop here because this introduction is enough for you. And next lecture we will start our discussion regarding our story. Okay, thank you for today.